Hello and welcome. We at New College are so excited you're considering us for your course of study in September, and we are equally, if not more excited, that you're also considering English language. So today we're going to provide a taster session for what you can expect in an English language course, and we're going to focus on Grice's maxims of conversation. So our session objectives today are to give you an experience of learning at New College. What is it like to study here? We'll also identify the requirements of A-level English language, help you to gain an understanding of how an A-level English language lesson is conducted, and review and apply Grice's maximums of conversation in real-life circumstances. So we'll give you some knowledge maybe that you haven't had before, expose you to something new, and help you apply it so that that knowledge sticks with you. So let's look at really quickly why we would study A-level English language. So the study of English at A-level English language will help you understand how people communicate and assign meaning, how they do things with words, and how language relates to social factors or power or injustice. So we know that words can lift us out of the darkness, raise us to incredible heights, but words can also be an accomplice to tyranny. And it's something that we really have to be aware of. It's not just how a writer uses language or how a speaker uses language and the intended effect, but really the big picture. How do words impact the way we live our lives? Now, studying these subjects are going to open your eyes to a world that has been previously hidden in sight. We really take for granted the words we use. We don't stop to think about them. We don't stop to think of the barrage of language that we are faced with every day. But it's really important that we reflect on the fact that the words that we choose, the grammar we use, the topics that we decide to raise all have a direct influence on our thoughts and actions, and even what we believe to be real. So it's very important that people like yourself who are going out into the community with education and who will be our future leaders and will impact our local area, it's very important that we are cognizant of how language can impact people's lives and how words that we choose can cause incredible harm or create incredible good. So having that big picture perspective of language, it's more than just the words, it's the effect and the lasting implications. So if you're going to study English language, some of the courses that would go really well with an English language pathway choice would be things like journalism, criminal justice, health and social care, of course, education, learning how children learn to speak, how we as a society use language, what words really mean, what are the implications, all have definite impact on the teaching career. Of course, sociology and psychology, criminal justice and health and social care, they're all kind of related in that topics that we're going to cover in English language will definitely overlap the topics that you are covering in those courses. And of course, a linguistics course. If you're going to study language, English language would be an obvious first stop to get an overview, and then you would specialize. As far as careers, English language would be good for someone who's considering journalism or writing. Of course, being a teacher, a social worker, counselors, psychologists, lawyers, or linguists also would benefit from the foundation of an English language course. You cannot, though, underestimate the power of being able to write and communicate. The ability to write and effectively and expertly use language will serve you well, of course, in any course or any career. And that's something that not only we get a good grasp of how to use words, how language is used, but also how to effectively communicate through writing. So here's a course overview. The English language A-level course is a 2-year course of study, and it helps students develop their subject expertise by exploring key language concepts and theories and engaging with a range of texts and discourse. Now, the specification is going to explore the study of English language both as a medium of communication and definitely a topic in its own right. Students will be able to pursue their own lines of inquiry, so investigate areas of language that they are interested in or intrigue them, and analyze texts produced by others, as well as debate different views. At the end of 2 years of study, A-level English language students will take 2 exams. The exams constitute 80% of your grade. Each of the exam papers are 40%. As well, the students will complete what we call an NEA. An NEA is a non-exam assessment, which will involve a research project on a language methodology of choice. So for instance, again, this is an opportunity for you to pursue your lines of interest. Maybe you're interested in how women are presented in advertisement, or how children's books reflect family values, or how power is presented in political speech. Things like that are fascinating areas that you can explore for this research project. In addition, you'll also have an original piece of writing, a journalistic type article, and you'll also do some commentary. So not only will you kind of study the basics and show what you know on the exams, but you'll also be able to branch out into something of your own interest and show your writing ability. So the lesson that we're going to focus on today is something called Grice's maxims. And Grice's maxims are those unspoken rules of conversation. The philosopher Paul Grice proposed areas, and they are as follows. So quality. Quality means that when you are talking to someone, you try to be truthful as much as you can. The quantity is to not talk too much or too little. Relevance means that what you are talking about, you should really stay on topic. You shouldn't branch off into different tangents unless it has something to do with the conversation. And then manner, thinking about the time and place, what's appropriate, what are you saying, how would it be construed by the people that you are talking to. All right, so here's a quick video that's going to go into these four areas in more detail. Probably more detail than you ever wanted, but
you keep sending me weightlifting workouts.
Make you an expert in Grice's maximum. So here we go.
You keep sending me weightlifting workouts and pictures of super muscled people. Just what are you insinuating? I like to think that I'm a fairly well-rounded and educated dude, but linguistics is one of those fractal rabbit holes of intense academic study where every time I turn a corner, I discover another massive branch of human knowledge that I never even knew existed. It's kind of like being a science fiction geek and discovering the expanse over and over again. On one of my spelunking expeditions down said linguistics caverns, I happened across the work of philosopher Paul Grice. Stereotypically, while linguists tend to celebrate the fantastic diversity and complexity of human expression, philosophers are often more agoraphobic about it, especially analytic philosophers, who frequently get annoyed by how fast and loose most people play with their words. It's like they're not even thinking about absent reference or possible worlds. Could you please just say what you mean? Preferably using logic symbols. Grice's landmark lecture series, Logic and Conversation, delivered at Harvard in 1967, takes a slightly more descriptive approach, detailing a number of interesting observations about how people use natural language. One of the most influential was his examination of conversational implicature, the totally unstated aspects of conversation that nonetheless convey meaning simply by the shape of what's said. At the root of this idea was Grice's theory that, in most cultures, conversation is intrinsically a cooperative exercise, that in order for it to work, all participating parties have to contribute to it in a particular, agreed-upon fashion. He called this the Cooperative Principle, which he stated as, make your conversational contribution, such as it is required, at the stage at which it occurs, by the accepted purpose or direction of the talk exchange in which you are engaged. That's a bit of a mouthful, but according to Grice, it's a rule that you know intrinsically and use whenever you're having a conversation, even if you don't think about it. It creates the context necessary for conversational implicatures. In order to make it a little more digestible, Grice unpacked the cooperative principle into 4 maxims of conversation, sub-rules that each describe an aspect of the principle that are a little easier to recognize on their own, especially when someone breaks them to get a point across. Grice made an important distinction between violating the maxims and flouting them, between straight up ignoring what's expected under the cooperative principle and deliberately subverting it to imply something. Violations aren't very interesting. They just look like social ineptitude. But picking and choosing when to break the rules is where the magic of implication happens. First, let's look at the maxim of quantity. That is, convey the right amount of information, not too much, not too little. Check out this terse letter of recommendation written for John Nash by Richard Duffin, noted physicist and professor of mathematics at Carnegie Mellon. Letters of rec are usually around 3 pages in length, with all sorts of descriptive language about the quality and important characteristics of the applicant in question. However, this one flouts the maxim of quantity. It contains significantly less information than is expected. By doing so, it implies something, that the information contained here is everything the admissions board needs to know. I am Richard Duffin, a respected, brilliant mathematician, and I assert that John Nash is a frickin' genius. You can also flout the maxim of quantity in the other direction. If you ask me where I come from, and I start off by describing the Big Bang and formation of galaxies, it's pretty clear from the overabundance of information that I'm supplying that I'm making a joke. Many of these maxims are flouted for comedic effect, which shows just how deeply rooted they are in our psyche. We find it funny when something subverts our expectations, and breaking the Gricean maxims can be really funny. Next, let's take a look at the maxim of quality. Part of what makes conversation useful is that the information conveyed is true to the best knowledge of the interlocutors. If someone were to lie to you at random every time you spoke to them, you'd probably have very little reason to chat. The information exchange doesn't have to be truthful all the time, but per the cooperative principle, everyone participating is assumed to be doing their best. You're probably well acquainted with the implicator flouting the maxim of quality, sarcasm and irony. Well, I'm sure glad I watched that whole season. Real quality television. Related to quality is the maxim of relation or relevance. When you're talking with someone, it's presumed that you're going to keep more or less on topic, not flitting off to discuss whatever happens to cross your mind. The conversation can wander, obviously, but non sequiturs forcefully violate the cooperative principle's directive of contributing by the accepted purpose or direction of conversation, or what we've kind of agreed by group consensus we should talk about. This can be a really fun place to invoke implicature by leaping to some seemingly unrelated subject and letting your conversational partners fill in the blanks on their own. So, how did that web meeting you had yesterday go? Did you know that if you mute your computer microphone, nobody can tell how loud you're screaming to yourself? It can also be used to indicate a breach of protocol. Changing the topic suddenly is an implication that the last thing that was said should probably not have been said. Last on Grice's list is the maxim of manner. By manner, he means style, like in the manner of Miles Davis. The presumption here is that conversational participants will speak in a style appropriate to the situation, taking into account the environment, their audience, and so on. We know implicitly to speak quietly and respectfully at funerals, to speak concisely when someone's in a hurry, and not to sprinkle a physics PhD thesis defense with colorful sexual metaphors. Flouting the maxim of manner by deliberately speaking in a weird style can imply all sorts of things. Say that someone asks me what songs a band performed at a concert that I attended, and I respond, they emitted a series of sounds that bore some resemblance to Sweet Child of Mine. Because I clearly had the option of just saying, they played Sweet Child of Mine, the meandering nature of my statement is meant to convey something else, namely that they may have technically played it, but not very well. Now, it's important to note that the Gricean maxims aren't meant to be prescriptive. It's not like these are rules that you must follow at all times or Grice will hunt you down and scold you. They're merely observations of how natural language tends to work. how people seem to communicate with each other. Still, there is something of an imperative here. Many times, people who find themselves in trouble because of something they've said, or neglected to say, will retreat to an exceptionally narrow interpretation of language. I never actually said that X, or you never explicitly asked me about Y. There's a reason that legal contracts and descriptions are extraordinarily technical and specific like this, rather than casual or chatty. If you leave a loophole, someone will undoubtedly use it to wiggle their way out of their legal obligations to you. So you cover your bases as clearly as you possibly can. But, as much as some philosophers might like it to be otherwise, the conventional use of language doesn't usually dive into that sort of rigor. As Grice noted, it's much less adversarial and much more of a cooperative endeavor, where all parties are tacitly agreeing to be bound by particular conventions, including the ones that he called out. I'm all for clarity in expression and thought, but we should also respect the information that we choose to convey via the unstated rules of conversational implicature. Sometimes, what isn't said is just as important. What's your favorite way to flout the cooperative principle of conversation? Please leave a comment below and let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to blah, blah, subscribe, blah, share.
All right, so we've gotten some information on the 4 areas, quantity, quality, relevance, and manner. And what we're going to do now is look at how Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory either flouts, so does it on purpose, or violates Grice's maximums.
So I was doing some checking on the ring.
Hold on, Sheldon, is that ketchup on the table? Yes, there is. But here's a fun fact. Ketchup started out as a general term for sauce, typically made of mushrooms or fish brine with herbs and spices. Some popular early main ingredients included blueberry, anchovy, oyster, kidney bean, and grape. No, that's okay, I'll get it.
Leonard, a moment.
What?
If someone, and of course we don't know who this would be, does ask where you've gone, what should I say?
I don't know. Just tell him I went to the office.
Are you going to the office?
No.
Well, then how can I say it convincingly?
Just say Leonard went to the office.
All right. Leonard went to the office.
No, not like that. Just Leonard went to the office.
This would have worked out a lot better if you just told me you were going to the office.
I'm going to the office.
See, why don't I believe you? Doesn't anyone want to know where he's going?
Okay, where is he going?
Leonard is going to the office. Penny, are you experiencing some sort of difficulty?
Yes, I can't get my stupid door open.
You appear to have put your car key in the door lock. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
All right, then.
Damn it.
Would it be possible for you to do this a little more quietly?
Can't get the damn key out.
Well, it's not surprising. That Baldwin lock on your door uses traditional edge-mounted cylinders, whereas the key for your Volkswagen uses a center cylinder system.
Thank you, Sheldon.
You're welcome. Point of inquiry, why did you put your car key in the door lock?
Why? I'll tell you why. Because today I had an audition. It took me 2 hours to get there. I waited an hour for my turn, and before I could even start, they told me I looked too Midwest for the part. Too Midwest? What the hell does that even mean?
Well, the American Midwest was mostly settled by Scandinavian and Germanic people. They have a characteristic facial.
I know what it means, Sheldon! God. You know,
On
I want to build a road, but I need wood. Do either of you fellas have wood? I don't understand the laughter. The object of Settlers of Catan is to build roads and settlements. To do so requires wood. Now, I have sheep. I need wood. Who has wood for my sheep? Now, where were we? Oh, yes. Does anyone have any wood? Come on. I just want wood. Why are you making it so hard? And now that I have some wood, I'm going to begin the erection of my settlement.
He's going to be doing this on purpose.
Now, back to our game.
So you were in the middle of an erection?
Oh, of course, it's right here in my hand.
All right, so watching that clip, hopefully you were able to apply some of the things you've learned about Grice's maxims. Now, the character of Sheldon, did he violate or flout? Flout is he deliberately chose not to meet these rules on purpose, maybe for humor, maybe for some other aspect to make a point, whereas violate means he broke them. So let's kind of look at what he did. So as far as for quantity, which is don't say too much or too little, Sheldon goes way into too much detail about the ketchup. Quality, don't lie. Sheldon has a hard time saying another character went on a business trip when he didn't. Stick to the subject at hand. Sheldon talks about the properties of locks and the ethnic origin of people from the Midwest when the other character is more worried about trying to actually get into our flat. And then manner, which is to be aware of the environment and what you're saying. The characters think Sheldon is being rude, as what he's saying could be applied to something a lot less innocent. They're actually really laughing hysterically at what he's saying. He's implying something that has to do with the card game, but they're taking it as something else. And he, as he said, I don't understand the laughter. Now, thoughts to consider. Is he flouting or is he violating? It is a comedy show, so he could be using these as a way of kind of scoring points, getting a laugh. But one suspects that he is violating because Sheldon is on the spectrum. So a study from the Department of Psychology at the University of London in the UK states that high-functioning children with autism show a severe deficit in the development of pragmatics, whereas their knowledge of syntax and morphology is relatively intact. So children with autism can string together beautiful sentences, grammatically correct, structurally sound, but have a hard time kind of understanding the impact of their words. So how are their words perceived? When is the time and place, etc. So because of that, Sheldon is violating them. He is breaking these rules, but not because he is thoughtless or selfish or trying to do his own thing in the conversation. He just doesn't understand what's going on. So when individuals break these maximums, flouting is one thing, kind of doing it for effect, for humor, or to make a point. But when they're broken, when they're violated, it could be more than just thoughtlessness or selfishness. Like Sheldon, they may just not understand the rules or have a hard time comprehending what they need to do. They could also be individuals who are unfamiliar with the culture, or maybe English just isn't their first language. So going forward, now that you have all this knowledge, one, observe conversations in a different way. See what people are doing what, and are they following the maxims? And if they do break them, maybe ask yourself why. Are they doing it for a point? Are they doing it for a point? Or do they just not understand? And if they just don't understand, then be a good conversational role model. Show people what to do and lead the way forward. So if you like what we did today, you might consider adding English language to your A-level pathway. We'll do exciting topics like this, as well as the ones below, things like how language and gender are intertwined, how children learn to speak and write, how language and power are established, how writers create meaning and representation, and also focus on journalistic writing and purpose and audience. Thank you so much for your interest, and hope to see you in English language.